Ready to step off the map from the most hidden alleyways to the stories nobody told you? Uncharted Alleyways begins now. Your definitive guide and travel podcast, culture, adventure, and the world as you've never heard it. Tune in, disconnect from the obvious, and come explore with us. Uncharted Alleyways, your next trip starts here.
You know, there is this almost universal irony when it comes to traveling to a really major world-famous destination.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you spend months anticipating it, right?
Yeah.
You save up the money, you finally get there, and the overwhelming reality of the whole experience is just...
Exhaustion.
Yes.
Yes.
Total exhaustion. It's elbowing your way through crowds or, sweating in a line for 2 hours just to stare at the back of someone else's phone.
Yeah, while they film a monument that you're supposedly there to see with your own eyes, it is the absolute definition of sightseeing overload.
Right.
And while we really do it to ourselves, we tend to treat these historic cities like, I don't know, all-you-can-eat buffets.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right, like we are obligated to consume absolutely everything, right down to the last crumb, or we feel like we've somehow failed the trip.
Slowly.
The irony is that in trying to see everything, we often absorb, well, absolutely nothing.
Which brings us perfectly to the text we're looking at today. For you, the listener, we are exploring an excerpt from the travel series Uncharted Alleyways.
A really fascinating series.
It really is. And specifically, we're looking at a segment titled Florence, the Art of Slowing Down. And, okay, let's unpack this, because right away, reading through this source material, I realize this is definitely not just like a list of travel hacks for your next Italian vacation.
No, not at all.
It actually reads more like a manual on how to consume information, how to filter out noise, and fundamentally change the way you experience the world around you.
Yeah, and that is the precise mission of this deep dive today. We want to extract that broader philosophy from this travelogue.
Right.
Because what the author is really arguing here is that choosing depth over breadth, deliberately seeking out the quiet margins of a very busy world, it radically alters your perspective.
It's a compelling argument, honestly.
It is. It suggests that the most profound, life-altering experiences, they rarely happen in the dead center of the chaos.
But practically speaking, I mean, when you are visiting the literal birthplace of the Renaissance, right? A city that draws millions of tourists a year.
Yeah, Florence is packed.
It's so packed. So finding that quiet margin sounds almost impossible. But the source points out that to actually find this hidden, peaceful side, you literally have to rise above it.
You do.
You have to physically remove yourself from that street-level friction.
Yes, physically and mentally. The text actually centers this initial concept on a very specific spot.
Piazzale Michelangelo.
Exactly. For those who aren't familiar, it's this sprawling, very famous viewpoint perched high on a hillside that overlooks the entire city of Florence.
And the source is very particular about how you should get up there, which I found interesting.
Yeah, it has rules.
Right. You could easily take a local bus or, just grab a taxi. But the strong recommendation, almost a mandate really, is that you have to walk.
You have to do the climb.
You have to climb those winding stone steps up from the river. And I have to admit, when I read that, my first thought was just, why?
It sounds like the opposite of relaxing.
Exactly. If the whole goal is to avoid exhaustion, why force yourself into a strenuous uphill climb? Can't you get the exact same perspective from the backseat of a cab?
Well, you get the same visual data, sure.
Okay.
But you don't get the same psychological priming. The physical effort is actually the mechanism here.
How so?
By walking up those steps, you are actively engaging with the geography of the city. You are earning the perspective. It's this physical transition from the chaos of the streets below to the clarity of the viewpoint above.
Oh, I see.
The physical exertion kind of burns off that frantic, checklist-driven anxiety.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah. And the payoff described in the text is just so vivid.
It's beautiful.
Like when you finally reach the top, you are hit with this massive, iconic dome of the cathedral, just rising out of a literal sea of terracotta rooftops.
Yeah.
You have these church towers piercing the skyline. You see the Arno River, which the source describes so beautifully as a ribbon of silver cutting right through the stone city.
I love that phrase.
Me too. And then way out in the distance, framing the whole scene, you have the rolling Tuscan hills.
It provides a complete macro view, like a geographical and historical panorama all at once.
Right.
But what's critical here is the timing. The source notes that visiting at sunset is undeniably gorgeous. I mean, the whole city glows in these warm, cinematic shades of gold and orange and pink. But it's also crowded. Everyone goes at sunset.
Right. Everyone has the same idea. So the real magic, the highly recommended experience in the text, is making that uphill trek at sunrise.
Yeah, at dawn.
Which is fascinating because climbing up a dark, quiet hillside at dawn feels totally counterintuitive to a normal vacation schedule.
Very much so.
But it seems like climbing to that piazzale at sunrise does something really specific to your brain. It's almost like, well, it's like hitting pause on a chaotic, loud movie just to admire a beautifully composed still frame.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Does the effort of the climb make that still frame mean more? It seems to strip away all the context of modern tourism.
It does. And what's fascinating here is the psychology of witnessing a city's baseline.
It's baseline.
Yeah. When you make that physical effort to climb up at dawn, you aren't competing with the city's chaotic energy. The streets below are quiet.
Right. Nothing's open yet.
Exactly. You are looking at the architecture, the river, the hills, exactly as they were centuries ago.
Wow.
Before the tour buses arrive, before the souvenir stalls open, Florence feels completely timeless. You are experiencing the reality of the place, not the commercialized attraction that it becomes by noon.
But escaping the crowds at a high-altitude viewpoint, that's really only half the battle, isn't it?
Unfortunately, yes.
Because eventually the sun comes up and you have to go back down, you have to descend into the city, and you're immediately hit with that pressure to perform as a tourist again.
The checklist comes back out.
Exactly. So how do you maintain that macro-level peace when you're back down at street level?
Well, the source suggests that right in the shadow of these massive, crowded monuments, there are hidden sanctuaries.
Places hiding in plain sight.
Yeah, precisely. The text points to the Rose Garden, for example, which is located just a few steps down from that famous viewpoint.
Oh, yeah, the Rose Garden.
And the tragedy, according to the source, is that thousands of visitors see the panoramic view from the Piazzale and then just immediately march straight back down the main roads into the busy city center.
They just walk right past it.
Completely bypassing this incredibly peaceful garden, just a stone's throw away.
And the description of it is just idyllic. Like hundreds of different varieties of roses, winding stone pathways, sculpture scattered all around, and just these quiet shaded benches.
It sounds perfect.
It does. And the source frames this garden, another location slightly further uphill, San Miniato al Monte, I think?
Yes, San Miniato.
Right, which is this ancient, incredibly calm church surrounded by cypress trees. It frames these as places to just stop. To sit, to read a book or write in a journal.
Yeah, to just be.
But I'm going to be honest here. I really struggle with this advice.
Really? Why is that?
Because of the sunk cost fallacy.
Ah, right.
I mean, if I only have 48 hours in Florence and I spent a small fortune on flights and hotels, sitting on a shaded bench in a rose garden feels mildly irresponsible.
You feel like you're wasting time.
Yeah. I can sit on a bench in my hometown for free. It's really hard to justify staring at a quiet stone wall when I have a checklist of world-famous masterpieces like the Uffizi Gallery or the Statue of David, quite literally right down the street. Does the source actually address that kind of aggressive FOMO?
It does, and it hits on a very deep psychological trap that we all fall into.
Okay.
We have been conditioned to treat travel not as an experience, but as an act of acquisition.
Acquisition, wow.
Yeah, we rush from landmark to collect what we could call visual trophies.
Visual trophies, I like that phrase. It's like hoarding digital photos on a hard drive that you never actually look at again.
Exactly.
You're collecting data,
Yeah.
but you aren't generating a meaningful memory.
Spot on. You want to be able to tell your friends, hey, I saw this painting, or I stood inside this cathedral.
Right, for the Instagram post.
Right. But what you're actually doing is prioritizing social validation over personal experience.
That is so true.
And the source counters this by arguing that memorable destinations do not need to be crowded or famous. It uses a very poignant phrase, actually.
What is that?
It says, sometimes beauty whispers instead of shouting.
Oh, man. And when you're rushing to check off the loud, shouting monuments, you literally cannot hear the whispers.
Right. And it follows that up with a core thesis. Travel isn't always about seeing more. Sometimes it's about feeling more.
Feeling more.
Yeah. When you are sprinting through a checklist, your brain is entirely focused on the future.
Like what's next?
Exactly. The next museum, the next lunch reservation, checking the train schedule. But sitting on that bench in the Rose Garden, it forces your brain into the present tense. Rushing prevents you from actually absorbing the atmosphere of the place you traveled so far to experience.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The idea of absorbing the atmosphere seamlessly transitions into the next major theme of the excerpt.
Right, moving into the city itself.
Exactly. We've gone from the literal macro view of the city from the hillside down to the quiet, hidden sanctuaries just below it. And now the text moves us all the way down into the micro, everyday, granular life of Florence.
The street level.
Yes. The argument is that one of the most profound ways to experience the city is to live like a Florentine, even if it's just for a single morning.
Shifting the focus entirely from the monumental to the mundane.
Right.
The source outlines this by suggesting you wake up early and purposefully find a neighborhood cafe that is several streets removed from the major tourist plazas.
And the focus on the granular details here is so vivid in the text. It's not about grand architecture anymore. It's about ordering a simple espresso and a fresh pastry.
Just normal life.
Right. It's about noticing how the regular customers greet the barista by their first name, watching cyclists in business suits ride by on their way to the office. It's listening to the very specific metallic sound of local shopkeepers unlocking their heavy doors for the day, or passing a neighborhood bakery and literally watching the baker stack warm loaves of bread behind the counter.
It is about paying deep, deliberate attention to the texture of daily life.
The texture, yeah.
The source emphasizes, browsing small, independent bookstores that are filled with Italian novels rather than souvenir stands.
Right, skipping the plastic magnets.
Exactly. It suggests walking through local neighborhood markets where actual residents are arguing over the price of fresh vegetables, cheese, and flowers.
And the source makes this brilliant, almost jarring observation. It says, Florence isn't performing for visitors. It's simply living its life.
That is a powerful line.
It really stuck with me because it made me realize how often we demand that historical cities act like theme parks.
Oh, totally.
When you go to a theme park, you expect a highly curated performance. You expect the characters to wave at you. But why do we demand that a living, breathing historical city put on a show for us?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights the difference between being a spectator of a culture versus being a temporary participant in it.
Okay, break that down.
Well, when you demand a performance, when you stick strictly to the major tourist sites and the guided tours, you are entirely a spectator. You are watching the culture from the outside, safely separated by a camera lens, an audio guide, and a velvet rope.
You're watching the rehearsal, not the actual play.
Precisely. But when you step into that off-the-beaten-path cafe and you simply observe a shopkeeper sweeping their steps or a family buying bread, you neurologically shift.
Really?
Yeah, you shift from a state of passive consumption to active observation. You become a temporary participant in the reality of that city. You are sharing in its actual breathing existence, which creates a much deeper emotional resonance than just, looking at a statue.
But the source is also highly pragmatic, which I appreciate.
It is.
Because it doesn't pretend that Florence is some silent, empty medieval village. Participating in a major city involves dealing with inevitable everyday friction.
Oh, yes, the crowds.
Right. It openly acknowledges the massive crowds swarming the cathedral, the bottleneck of tourists on the Ponte Vecchio, the midday summer heat that radiates off the stone,
The heat can be brutal.
and the very real need to be mindful of pickpockets in those packed public squares.
Which is why it spends time offering very specific, practical tips for navigating that friction.
Right.
It mentions things like wearing properly comfortable shoes because you're walking on uneven, centuries-old stone streets. It reminds you to carry a reusable water bottle because the city is full of public drinking fountains dispensing cool, fresh water.
That's a great tip.
It emphasizes reserving museum tickets weeks in advance and, wearing a secure crossbody bag.
Now, I have to admit, when I first read that list, I thought, well, obviously.
Right, it seems basic.
Yeah, like drink water and wear good shoes, I know that.
Yeah.
It sounded like basic filler for an audience that doesn't really need to be told how to pack. But looking closer at the context, it's not really about travel hacks, is it?
No, not at all.
It's about managing your cognitive bandwidth.
That is a critical distinction. These aren't just packing tips. They are strategies for maintaining your mental equilibrium.
Okay.
Think about cognitive load. If your brain is constantly dedicating background processing power to the physical friction of sore feet, or mild dehydration, or, like you mentioned, the low-level anxiety of worrying about your wallet in a crowd.
Right, you're constantly distracted.
Exactly. You literally do not have the bandwidth left to appreciate the art or the whispering beauty of the city. You are in survival mode, not appreciation mode.
You know, it perfectly mirrors how we navigate the modern internet.
Oh, how so?
Think about it. If you want to read a genuinely good, in-depth article online, you have to actively use ad blockers.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. You have to curate your feed, bypass the pop-ups, and scroll past the clickbait to finally get to the authentic, uninterrupted content.
That's very true.
So these practical travel tips are essentially real-world ad blockers. By booking ahead or wearing the right gear, you filter out the superficial noise so you can actually engage with the real city.
That's a fantastic analogy. And the text actually offers an ultimate ad blocker for Florence, which is a specific, deliberate routing choice known as the Oltrarno neighborhood.
Yes. The instruction here is so clear and intentional.
Very specific.
It tells you to walk across the famous Ponte Vecchio, but to do it just before sunset. And then, crucially, to keep walking.
Don't stop.
Right. Do not stop at the major plazas. Leave the busy roads entirely behind and cross over to the other side of the river.
Because the environment completely shifts over there.
It really does.
The source describes wandering into these narrow, peaceful streets where laundry is casually strung up between the buildings.
So picturesque.
Bicycles are leaning against old stone walls instead of being locked up to massive bike racks. You start to catch the ambient scent of garlic and dinner preparations drifting out from open second-story windows.
And eventually, you stumble into a small, uncelebrated neighborhood piazza.
Yeah.
There are no major monuments here.
Right.
Maybe there's a simple fountain. There are kids playing soccer against a church wall while their grandparents chat on nearby benches.
Just real life.
Exactly. There's a local cafe serving wine and coffee to familiar faces. There are no tour groups waving flags. Just the rhythm of everyday life.
This raises an important question about intentionality.
Okay.
The source advises you to just sit in that unassuming square. Order a coffee or a small dessert, and simply watch the evening unfold. And it ties this deliberate slowness directly to how we consume things, specifically shopping.
Right, because Florence is globally famous for its leather goods.
Extremely famous.
But the source warns against the fast dopamine hit of buying a mass-produced souvenir from the first crowded shop you pass near the cathedral.
It advocates for mindful consumption. It tells you to take your time, wander the Oltrarno, and seek out the family-owned workshops.
Find the real craftspeople.
Right. You are encouraged to compare the craftsmanship, smell the leather, and actually talk to the artisans. The psychological difference here is massive.
Right.
You aren't just buying a souvenir, you are actively engaging in a transaction that sustains a culture. You are supporting traditions that have shaped the city for generations.
And returning to that quiet piazza in the Oltrarno, the text makes a really beautiful point. It says that this unplanned, seemingly mundane square might actually become the most enduring memory of your entire trip.
Which is so often true.
It really is. If every single minute of your itinerary is aggressively scheduled, there is zero space left for a beautiful surprise. Slowness allows room for serendipity.
Which brings us perfectly to the final synthesizing reflections of this text.
Yeah.
Because the segment on Florence is just one chapter in a much larger journey documented in Uncharted Alleyways. The author actually takes a moment to look back at all the previous destinations they've explored to distill the core wisdom that each specific place imparted.
It's a really elegant recap, honestly. Like, the source reflects that Athens reminded them that powerful ideas can literally shape civilizations.
Right.
The Greek islands taught them to appreciate life's simple, unhurried pleasures. Istanbul was a lesson in how deeply different cultures and entire continents can beautifully converge.
And it continues from there. Cappadocia in Turkey revealed impossible, dreamlike landscapes.
Yeah.
Petra in Jordan showed humanity's sheer determination to carve beauty into the harshest, most unforgiving environments. Rome taught them that history isn't a dead thing in a textbook, it's alive, living in every cobblestone street and shared meal.
But Florence, the lesson from Florence is distinct. It's highly specific.
It really is. The author concludes that Florence's ultimate lesson is about the fundamental nature of beauty itself.
Okay.
The realization is that beauty isn't just a natural phenomenon we passively admire, like a mountain or an ocean.
Right.
True cultural beauty is something people must actively create, rigorously protect, constantly improve, and intentionally pass down from one generation to the next.
And you see it in everything there. It's in the precision of every stone building, the stitching on every handcrafted leather bag, the care put into every perfectly prepared meal, the strokes of every Renaissance painting, and the dedication of every single loaf of bread baked before the sun comes up. Woven together, they tell the story of a city that fundamentally celebrates the act of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well.
And that is the ultimate takeaway the source leaves us with right before teasing their next destination, which is Venice, the floating city, a place where canals replace roads.
Oh, that'll be a good one.
Definitely. But the lingering thought on Florence isn't about the grand architecture. It's that Florence's greatest gift is teaching us to notice the details, to value the meticulous over the massive, and to fiercely appreciate quality over sheer quantity.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Over the course of this excerpt, we've journeyed from the anxiety-inducing reality of sightseeing overload to the profound, quiet peace of a hidden rose garden.
We really have.
We've fundamentally shifted the metric of a successful trip, from counting the sheer quantity of sites you can blindly check off a list to measuring the actual resonant depth of how you experience them.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply practical consideration for your own life.
Let's hear it.
Well, the text praises Florence for celebrating the simple joy of doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. So my question to you is this. How can you apply that exact same Florentine slowness to your own mundane morning routine tomorrow? Even if you are thousands of miles away from the cobblestone streets of Italy, how can you elevate your standard morning coffee or your daily commute from a mindless checklist item into an experience of deep, intentional appreciation?